Hello. Welcome to the illustrious Valley Org of North Hollywood, California, where there was a nice, exciting protest the other day. And the question today is going to be, how long will it take them to put on their very depressing music? That was the new inaugurated strategy the other night. Was Scientology music was utilized as a deterrent to protesting. So today I want to talk a little bit about how Scientology starts blocking the exits as soon as you get involved in Scientology. Because it's not only about luring you into a cult and abusing you financially and in other ways. That's not the only aspect of this. The other very important aspect of Scientology indoctrination is how they cut you off from all other options. It's like an abusive partner who wants you to not have any other connection, so when they start abusing you, you have no one to go to. And one of the main ways that Scientology achieves this level of control is that they have the idea of suppressive persons and potential trouble sources. So any ex-Scientologists that have the information more precise than me, please don't hesitate to correct me in the comments. I really will not get offended. I'm going off of my information, and I've actually printed some stuff out that I'm going to read to you here, or summarize to you. But anyway, when Scientology draws you in to the cult, on the one hand, they're trying to give you some experiences to validate that this is a good thing that you're doing, joining this organization. So they will try to give you the experience of feeling some issues being lifted, some psychological relief. And so one of those methods, for example, is having you repeat a traumatic story over and over and over until it loses its charge, it loses the ability to disrupt you in the same way that it always has. And that is a valid technique because most people are avoiding their pain, their issues. They spend their whole lives in a state of emotional avoidance. And they think that if I think about this issue, I'm just going to get depressed or anxious or, whatever their go-to emotion is. And so they sweep it under the rug. And so therapy in general is about getting those emotional upsets that you've swept under the rug and bringing them out and going through a process of first dealing with the issue and then getting to a point where you're more okay with it. And so let's say somebody has suppressed their issues their whole life. All right, there we go. Do we have curtain tech? All right. Are you proud to be a Scientologist? No, not so much, I guess. Okay. Notice that last time I came here, you could see the people working at the desk. But now they have gone into a protective mode of curtain tech, as we call it, of hiding themselves in shame from the world. And so, like I'm saying, my point is that they give you what they call wins. They give you the experience of something being a positive experience that, oh my God, I confronted my emotional pain and they helped me through it and now I feel better. And if you've never done any kind of therapy or any of that, and you do any kind of process where you talk to another human being about your emotionally painful issues, it's going to be helpful. You are going to feel some kind of relief, and you're going to start bonding to the person or the organization that helped you feel better. It's normal, it's natural, it's what we would expect. So that's on the positive side. Scientology seeks to give you a positive experience. Okay, good. But on the other side, they want to get you in a situation where eventually you have no one else to go to but them. You have no other options because you've alienated friends and family, co-workers, and your whole life revolves around Scientology. Now, this is a process that takes years, usually, but it doesn't have to take years. It could be quicker than that. And so, one of the things that they do is that they create these concepts that they set up the parameters, and so that later on when stuff starts going down, you're already there. So they start off, and I have some papers here, and so as you see these Scientologists coming for their cult indoctrination, keep in mind that this is the kind of thing that they think. Okay, so one thing is the antisocial personality. And I want you to think about, when I read you these descriptions, the way Scientology sees the world, I want you to think about, does this sound more like Scientologists, or does this sound more like normal people that Scientologists need to be worried about? Okay, so there are certain characteristics and mental attitudes which cause about 20% of a race to oppose violently any betterment activity or group. Okay, so notice how they're setting it up right now. There are 20% of any, and notice the antiquated language of any race. So L. Ron Hubbard thought in terms of race instead of humans, and he was also very homophobic. And what they're saying is 20% of people are just fundamentally opposed to you improving yourself. So notice how they're setting up this situation. They're setting up the enemy, okay? Just like Hitler set up the Jews with pictures of rats and films of gross stuff as he talked about Jews, he was setting people up to commit the Holocaust. Okay? And he didn't just say, hey, let's go have a Holocaust, and they can't change it. Okay? And so they're saying there are these people that are just fundamentally antisocial people, and they are fundamentally opposed to any betterment activity or group. So right away they're saying we are the betterment activity, and they don't like betterment. It's a genius way of doing an us versus them thing, because it locks them into a situation where they're the good guys right away. Okay, so notice the indoctrination. Okay, this is one sentence, and they lay the whole thing out. Such people are known to have antisocial tendencies. Now, you notice Scientologists, you ask them a question, they don't answer it, they look away, they won't speak to you. Okay, who has the antisocial tendencies now? Scientologists or everybody else, which is 99.9999999% of the population? When the legal or political structure of a country becomes such as to favor such personalities and positions of trust, then all the civilizing organizations of the country become suppressed, and a barbarism of criminality and economic duress ensues. Okay, so when these people who oppose the betterment that, as we will find out later, that only Scientology offers, then it seeps into the government and all of that. Chichana, you're funny. So you can listen later. So basically what they're saying, awesome. Well, you can listen later, like I said. But anyway, so what they're saying is that eventually these evil people that are opposed to the groups that provide betterment, they take over the society, and then we have barbarism of criminality and economic duress. Doesn't it sound like a little bit of projection? The barbarism of criminality and economic duress. Who's famous for economic duress? Could it be Scientology? Bing, 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 you win. Yes, it is Scientology. Scientology is very suppressive and a barbarism of criminality and economic duress. So what they do is they say, no, we're not. Everybody else is. And you got to come to us because we're the betterment group. We're the betterment group that the bad people are so afraid of. Crime and criminal acts are perpetrated by antisocial personalities. Inmates of institutions commonly trace their state back to contact with such personalities. Oh, so basically, criminals are a result of hanging out with people who are opposed to the kind of betterment that Scientology offers. So now we get into the thing where we're building the foundation where Scientology firmly believes, as part of their religion, that anybody against Scientology, anybody who criticizes Scientology, is an antisocial personality, and they are criminals, and they are the breeding ground of criminals because they are the ones who make people into criminals, which then obviously it follows in their twisted logic that then Scientology is the only antidote because they're the betterment group. They're the ones that are fighting this evil negativity. And so, and anybody against Scientology then is a criminal. Thus, in the fields of government, police activities, and mental health, to name a few, we see that it is important to be able to detect and isolate. It's important to be able to detect and isolate this personality type so as to protect society and individuals from the destructive consequences attendant upon letting such have free rein to injure others. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to detect who they are. And obviously one really good way of detecting who they are is if they are against Scientology, they're automatically one of those people. Okay, so there we got some good circular logic. And this is, so we detect and then we isolate them. So that way, if a Scientologist will not speak with you, it's not because they're afraid of you helping them get out of the brainwashing of the cult. It's because they're isolating you to protect society. As they only compromise 20% of the population, and as only 2.5% are truly dangerous, where the hell did you get your statistics, L. Ron? Okay, these statistics don't have a lot of citations. I don't see any footnotes here, young man, old man. We see that with a very small amount of effort, we could considerably better the state of society. Okay. So we don't need to have that many people. Those horrible antisocial people are ruining everything with only 2.5%. So then it goes to like, well, what does this stuff do? So what does this negativity lead to? When we trace the cause of a failing business, we will inevitably discover somewhere in its ranks the antisocial personality hard at work. Okay, so all those businesses that employ Scientology are then signing up for a system that promotes witch hunts, that we need to find the negative person. And this is at the root of L. Ron Hubbard's teaching that if you do Scientology correctly, you will always succeed, you will always improve, your statistics will always go up. So therefore, if your statistics are going down, you're either not doing it right, or you're connected to one of these antisocial personality types. So you see how Scientology, they lure you in by maybe giving you a therapeutic experience that is new for you, and then they start building the fence around you to say, we have to look for the wrongdoers, the evildoers. We have to look around and see who's messing everything up. Obviously, if you're doing Scientology, it's not you messing anything up. It's these wrongdoers. it's these antisocial personality types. So in families which are breaking up, Scientology breaks up families. Let's remember, in families which are breaking up, we commonly find one or the other of the persons involved to have such a personality. So see, this is laying the groundwork for having you disconnect from your family in the future. They're saying when families have issues, it's because there's one of these people in the family that is opposed to these betterment groups. Oh, how could that eventually lead you back to Scientology? Well, because then you're like, later on when you're in Scientology and you have somebody who is skeptical about Scientology, then you look back over your materials and you're like, oh my God, L. Ron Hubbard was a genius. This is what he said. In families which are breaking up, we kindly find one or the other of the persons involved to have such a personality. Well, for the Scientologists, they're saying, I don't have that kind of personality, so it has to be the other person. Okay, so we're talking about how Scientology builds up a fence in your mind to hold you into the cult. They get you to agree. It's like a salesman. See, they try to have you say a lot of yes answers. And then they ask you the question to get you to buy, and you've been saying yes, 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 yes. So now it's easy to say yes to make the purchase. Okay, Scientology, they're like, well, wouldn't somebody be bad if they were just anti-human improvement? Wouldn't that be a bad thing? And everybody's like, yeah, that would be bad. You know, I mean, sure, you should be for human improvement. Human improvement's a good thing. Being against human improvement is a bad thing. Okay, totally. And do you understand how a person like that could bring down a business or split up a family? Oh yeah, I could see how that could happen. Yeah, see, it's really reasonable. Of course, if you have an asshole at the office, that's gonna mess up the office. If you have an asshole in the family, it's probably not gonna be a very cohesive family situation. Duh. Okay, L. Ron, you're not that big of a genius coming up with that idea. But see, they're building up to this idea that there are these people called suppressive people, like me, SPTV, and suppressive people are at the root of all evil, and Scientology is, you should ask them about that peyote. So Scientology is, if you guys aren't watching the comments, you know, got a peyote question. So anyway, they're setting you up for anybody against us is the problem, and we are the solution. Are you with us? Are you on the side of the solution, or are you on the side of the problem? And so everybody's like, well, I want to be part of the solution, of course. I don't want to be part of the problem. I mean, who would want to do that? Of course. And so it's like, yeah, good, okay. So where life has become rough and is failing, a careful review of the area by a trained observer, maybe a Scientologist, will detect one or more such personalities at work. So if anything's going wrong in your life, according to this, what you need is a Scientologist to tell you to scan your environment and to find the suppressive person. And once you find the suppressive person, then now you've identified them, now you isolate them, and you will be safe. Wow. And guess who can help you do that? Just so happens to be Scientology. Scientology can help you do that. And so, again, Scientology starts closing the gates around you as soon as you walk in the door. So for those of you just joining, what I'm talking about is how Scientology not only lures you in with positive experiences like feeling that you have had a therapeutic result, but it also, it's exactly like an abusive partner. An abusive partner wants to take away your support systems. They want to generate fights between you and your parents, your siblings, and your closest friends. And when you're so in love and everything, and then your mom's calling you saying, I'm not sure if he's good for you. He seems blah, blah, blah. I didn't like the way he got angry like that. And then you go and tell him, yeah, my mom thinks you're, maybe not good for me, too angry, whatever. And then it's like, your mom just doesn't want you to be happy. Your mom just doesn't have any love in her life, and she's jealous of you. Your mom is negative. Oh yeah, she seems to be a nice person. She is a wolf in sheep's clothing. You better be careful of your mom. Your mom doesn't have your best interest at heart, right? She doesn't care about you the way she pretends. And so then what happens is that abusive partner has isolated you from your mom. And now when the abuse starts, you don't have your mom to go to talk about it, to get emotional support, to get advice. You lose that connection. So yes, abusive partners always want to remove your connection to the people who could help you survive the abuse and be even immune to the abuse. And that's exactly what Scientology does. They don't want you to have other options. They want to slowly strangle everything in your life so that all you have is Scientology. And then it becomes a situation where it becomes too costly to leave Scientology, so you avoid doing it. So if Scientology can isolate you from friends and family, if they can even make your career centered around Scientology too, if they can undermine any romantic relationship you have with a non-Scientologist, then the only person, and you're going to Scientology, they're asking you the most intimate questions in every auditing session. They are videotaping you. They are writing everything down. They are keeping notes about everything you've ever done. So basically, they are collecting blackmail material. And now they have caused you to get rid of your whole support system, and they have all the dirt on you. Everything you've ever done in your whole life, you have confessed to them, trying to be a better person. And now you realize, oh, I alienated my family, I alienated my friends, they're all so pissed off with me, they don't even want to talk to me. And now I'm starting to doubt this Scientology thing but I have nobody to talk to it about. So then what happens? Then you go in for Scientology auditing, and they put you on the lie detector cans, and then they say, oh, it looks like something's bothering you. And then they find out your whole thought process about questioning Scientology, and they go for another round of removing people from your life. No, you don't get to choose your auditor as far as I know, because I had a friend who actually wanted to be an auditor, but when they gave her a very young, inexperienced auditor, she complained, and they ended up kicking her out of Scientology because she wouldn't go along with the program. So yeah, at least in her case, she was not able to choose her auditor at all. And she was actually kicked out for complaining about that fact. So anyway, it's a very genius thing when you explain, okay, well, maybe that's true, but as far as she knew, there was no paying extra to do this. So I don't know. So why would somebody be an antisocial personality? So what Scientology's doing is they're starting off with this idea of an antisocial personality, and then they build up to an SP. It's a very easy leap once we get this antisocial personality thing. The basic reason the antisocial personality behaves as he or she does lies in the hidden terror of others. So they're saying people like me, SPs, people that are against Scientology, actually have a hidden terror of other people. We're scared. Okay? That's what the group who, when somebody comes and protests, they tape up all their windows, they seal themselves off from the rest of humanity. They do not have an open door policy that they try to pretend like they do. They are scared. So who's the antisocial personality? Scientology or everybody else? To such a person, every other being is an enemy. Right, like every non-Scientologist is potentially an SP, a suppressive person. They're just outing themselves. It's like when you have that relationship with a really jealous person, and they're jealous all the time, but in the end, they're the ones that cheat. That's what Scientology is. No, the OT superpowers, all they know how to do is close the blinds, and then after they close the blinds, they tape up along the side of the blinds just to make sure they don't open. To such a person, every other being is an enemy to be covertly or overtly destroyed. The fixation is that survival itself depends on keeping others down or keeping people ignorant. My God, the hypocrisy of Scientology. They are describing themselves. L. Ron Hubbard is describing his own paranoia when he writes about the motivations and characteristics of his enemies. It's insanity. They literally do put their fingers, or I've seen videos back in the day of Anonymous, where they do put their fingers in their ear. Somebody starts talking about Xenu. Absolutely, they do that. I've seen it. So It's important then to examine and list the attributes of the antisocial personality, influencing as it does the daily lives of so many. So, what are the attributes of this antisocial personality? He or she speaks only in very broad generalities. Very broad generalities. Okay, so if I ask a Scientologist, what do you believe in Scientology? They won't even give you broad generalities. They will just say, come in and we'll show you. We'll tell you if you come in to our location, our lair. Talk about generalities. Scientology won't even give you generalities, or at most they will give you generalities. We are a human potential self-help group, and we're also a religion, and we believe in science, but we're a religion. Yeah, whatever, dude. They also, these antisocial personalities, they deal mainly in bad news, critical or hostile remarks, invalidation, and general suppression. So basically, they are mean, they criticize us, and they're not very specific. They invalidate. Well, Scientology would never do that. Scientology would never speak in generalities. They play loud music, exactly. Scientology would never lump most of humanity or whatever percentage together as suppressives and antisocial because they are against the goals of a betterment group. We have to wonder how many of these cars are actual Scientologists and how many are people who are allowed or even encouraged to park here from the surrounding businesses. That would be something to find out early in the morning, I guess. So, bad news, critical or hostile remarks, invalidation, and general suppression. Okay. Well, first of all, going to suppression. Notice how they start introducing the word suppression because they're getting you ready for the idea of suppressive people, SPs. Okay, the cause of all the evils of the universe. So they're getting you ready for that by suppression. Who else besides Scientologists talks about general suppression? Nobody talks like that. That's Scientology lingo. That's another aspect of cults that they always use specialized words that have a certain meaning within the cult, but they don't have that same meaning everywhere else. That is a general attribute of cults worldwide. That's just the pattern. The antisocial personality alters to worsen communication when he or she relays a message or news. Okay, so they put a negative spin on things. All right. Yeah, pseudo-military. I mean, it's always pseudo something. Everything L. Ron Hubbard, either he was hanging out with Aleister Crowley and he was doing spirituality, or he's having a failed naval career and then he creates a pseudo navy. It's all pseudo with that dude. And here we go. A characteristic, and one of the sad things about an antisocial personality is that it does not respond to treatment or reform. So there, what we are saying is that they don't respond to the greatness of Scientology. Maybe something's just wrong with them and they just can't respond to Scientology. It's just an innate characteristic, nothing we can do about it, but the only sign that they weren't that is if they started responding to Scientology or quit criticizing it or whatever. So this is all about creating an ideological cage, okay? Getting people to agree to things that piece by piece, some of these things seem like, well, how could you disagree with that, right? That's just logical. And so they get you to agree to these things, and then pretty soon you've walked into the slaughterhouse and there's no turning back. And also, the reason there's no turning back is because as you were coming in, they were blocking all the fire exits. So they don't respond to treatment or reform. Oh, who would possibly be the one that would be offering the treatment or the reform? Could it possibly be Scientology? Yeah, the herd becomes the obstacle. Of course. And given your handle, you're an expert on that. So, and as a bull, you're not subject to the whims of the herd, obviously. But surrounding such a personality, we find cowed or ill associates or friends who, when not driven actually insane, are yet behaving in a crippled manner in life, failing, not succeeding. Okay, what are they setting up here? They are setting up that people with disabilities are a sign of negativity, of suppression. People who are sick, that's not our thing, that's these antisocial personalities. Those are the ones, they have friends who have illnesses. Oh my God, yuck. Who would ever have a friend that could have an illness or a disability? They must be an SP if they have anybody like that. Uh-oh. Do we have a taker? Do we have a cult member? I don't know. She's driving slow. Looking like she didn't want to be too identifiable. Such people make trouble for others. When treated or educated, the near associate of the antisocial personality has no stability of gain, but promptly relapses or loses his advantages of knowledge, being under the suppressive influence of the other. See, now we're reinforcing this idea of suppressiveness. You notice that people aren't out there talking about suppressive. Only Scientologists are talking about suppressive people and this suppressive influences and all of that. Okay, and what are they really afraid that's going to get suppressed? Scientology. See, what they're doing is they're prepping you. When you join Scientology, they know that you're going to go out and talk to people about it. You're going to be all excited. You're going to try to get them to join Scientology. But what they're doing is they're saying, hey, before you do that, let me tell you, There are people out there who are antisocial personalities. And even if I don't need an amen section, I'll take it gladly. Thank you. So they're telling these new Scientologists, beware of the evil suppressive people, because, we could help you out, but if you're around those people, they could block your improvements. They could even set you back in life. They could make you ruin everything that you've achieved here with us in Scientology, right? So they're creating from day one, or whatever, one of the very early days. I don't know that it's actually day one, but on some level it probably is day one. They are creating an us versus them situation, and they're trying to get people identified as the us group, and they're trying to get everybody who would question them joining Scientology to automatically go into the them group. And that's why Scientologists will give you an arrogant, all-knowing type of look when you say anything about Scientology, because to them, they're just like, if you say anything against Scientology, oh, you've just outed yourself as having an antisocial personality. You have just shown me that you're a criminal, that you create havoc in society. You are showing me that they probably do practice the stink eye. You're right. They probably practice it in the mirror for hours at a time. And so they're training people in Scientology kind of, when you go out in the world and you tell people what you're doing, anybody who's against it, you might not have known this in the past, but that's a very evil person. And that might be your mom, your dad, brother, sister, husband, or wife, but they might be an antisocial personality. They might have an antisocial personality. They might be irredeemable. And you're like, oh no, there's nobody like that in my life. And then you go home, you tell somebody about Scientology, and they say, oh, I heard that was a cult. And you're like, oh shit, I never knew this was an evil person. Damn, thank you, Scientology. You gave me the key to seeing who is who. Isn't that amazing? And so they create this system of indoctrination by getting you to agree piece by piece to things that seem very logical. And as you agree with those things, and then you go out into the world and you apply that information, if you're susceptible, which more people are susceptible than you would think, and if you think you're not susceptible, that doesn't mean you're not susceptible, okay? Because they construct the electric fence around you, and then as you touch the electric fence, it just reaffirms the construction of this alternate reality that they have imposed on you. Okay. So physically treated, such associates, people who are associated with these negative people, commonly do not recover in the expected time, but worsen and have poor convalescences. So if you are attached to these negative people and you are sick, the medicine won't work on you. Or it'll work a lot slower. Your recovery time will be much slower. Oh, we wouldn't want that. Better join Scientology and give them all our money. because we wouldn't want to have a slow convalescence. But they're also teaching you that there's no compromise with suppressive persons, okay? That their very presence in your life, their very proximity in your life is threatening to your well-being on every level. If you believe it, it's a genius technique to brainwash somebody. So this is how people get brainwashed. They're like, oh my God, I never knew there were these type of people. I never knew that's the way things work. But now when I think of it, yeah, you know, that lady at work, my boss, she is mean. She is kind of suppressive. Yeah, I wanted to go on a vacation and she suppressed me. Oh my God, this explains everything. And this is the problem with an evil theory. With an evil theory like Nazism, okay, like communism as practiced by Stalin, okay? They have this story that captivates the people. Okay, the Nazis did not come into power by saying, you know, let's start a campaign of mass extermination. Just like Scientology, what they said is, there are these people around here that are ruining it for everybody. And we got to do something about that. And everybody said, yeah. I mean, shit is kind of ruined around here. Oh, you're telling me they're the ones in charge? And they didn't, it wasn't, you know, too hard because people were generally anti-Semitic anyway. People were anti-Semitic in America. Okay, golf, you know, country clubs wouldn't allow Jews until whatever, the 60s, 70s, I don't know. Maybe some of them don't now. But so it wasn't hard to create this system in Germany because of course they didn't tell you the final solution. They told you certain things that a lot of people thought anyway, and then they amplified it. And people said, yeah, that makes sense. You know, the reason I don't have any money is not because I don't have any education. It couldn't be that. It's those damn Jews that happen to have education, right? So it's not the education. Yeah, dude, it is the education. And so it is quite useless to treat or help or train such persons so long as they remain under the influence of the antisocial connection. Okay, what that's leading you to in Scientology is the idea of PTS. What that's... So in Scientology, if you are connected to a suppressive person, then you are a potential trouble source. So if you're connected to a person like this, there's no point doing any work on you because it won't work. Okay, so they have nailed this concept in the very beginning of their system to then later use it against you and to say that if you are connected to a suppressive person, you cannot do auditing because either the auditing will not work. What the fuck? This dude was like wiping out in a skateboard right behind me. And I hear this like running up behind me, and oh shit, I don't know if you guys caught that, but I was like, what the hell? What the hell is sneaking up on me now? So anyway, what does that mean? They're laying the foundations for Scientology's policy of disconnection. Because, hi, policey. Am I going to finally get those handcuffs like I've always been yearning for? So what they're doing is they're saying, if there is one of these people around you, that person is sabotaging all of the betterment that we at Scientology are trying to bring to you. So that puts you in a different category now. If you keep that person in your life, we can't help you, because it's axiomatic in the religion that if you are connected to an SP, then Scientology won't work on you, or it'll work a lot less. And so you are PTS, you're a potential trouble source. So you get no auditing, you can go no further on the bridge until what? Until what? What do they want you to do? What are they leading you to? You have to disconnect from that person. Only by disconnecting from this antisocial personality, this suppressive person, only by doing that do you have a shot at getting back on the bridge to total freedom, offered, coincidentally, only by Scientology. And so they create this idea that enslaves you. We bring betterment. But let me warn you, there are people out there who, for some reason, they hate betterment. They hate human improvement or evolution or learning or anything good and beautiful. They hate it. Okay? So they hate us. And the fact is, they bring everything down in the world. They are the root of all the crime, all the evil, all the political turmoil, all the economic problems. Everything is down to these antisocial personalities. And we, on the other hand, are Scientology. And we are all about helping people and saving the world from these horrendous people. And so, therefore, you have a choice. Are you with us or are you with them? And they make the them sound so horrible and evil that obviously you're going to want to be with Scientology. I mean, that's a no-brainer. The largest number of insane are insane because of such antisocial connections and do not recover easily for the same reason. That's a pretty bold statement in the field of mental health. So you're telling me there are these antisocial people who don't like any kind of human improvement, and they create insanity in the world. And so Scientology is trying to save us all from that insanity. And so you need to cooperate as a Scientologist by disconnecting from these creators of chaos and evil and insanity in the world. If anyone were to promise to make others stronger or brighter, the antisocial personality suffers the utmost agony of personal danger, right? If anybody says, hey, we have a solution to human misery, these horrible antisocial personalities, they just contort into spasms of pain and suffering. What a cartoonish, dumbass idea that is. Like, there are these people who are just so cartoonishly evil that if they even hear about anything that could help people, they just freak out. Okay, in Scientology, that's the way they act about other methods of helping people, like therapy, psychiatry, anything like that. In Scientology, I believe they call it other practices or something. And they, that's not allowed as a Scientologist to do these other practices. It's just not allowed. You can only do Scientology, right? So again, it's like the jealous partner who is actually the one who's cheating, right? They say, well, these horrible people, they freak out about things that really work to help people. Well, Scientology freaks out about anything that really works to help people because they perceive that as taking money out of their pockets. So interesting, very interesting. The reason that if they are in this much trouble with people around them, weak or stupid, they would perish should anyone become strong or bright. So these negative antisocial personalities have the fear that they would die if anybody loses their neuroses or psychological issues. It would be such a threat to these suppressive persons that these people would just die, okay? And they know it. And so they're so scared of anything happening. They're so scared of any group that would bring betterment to the world because it would literally cause their physical death. That's the belief here. Very interesting belief, absolutely. So, such a person has no trust to a point of terror. This is usually masked and unrevealed. Okay, so they're setting you up with this idea of trust. The antisocial personality has no trust. So now what are they setting you up for in the con here? They're setting you up for the moment when you give them any pushback whatsoever, and then they can say, oh, you don't have trust. Oh, that's a sign of an antisocial personality. We better get you on a lot of auditing. We better get you on about $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 worth of auditing because you are really close to falling down that hole into being one of those people. And so it's like, that's really dangerous. Hello. You in Scientology?
Huh?
Are you in Scientology?
I had bad news about them.
You have bad news? Can I interview you? Can I interview you?
Because I know she told everything about psychology, so I don't want them to play with my mind. Sorry.
Okay. Well, people not wanting to go on camera because they know the deal with Scientology. She said 3 women, I believe, that she knows that have issues here. And she doesn't want to talk about it because she doesn't want them to get their retribution on her. Yeah, that's an old story. That's about a 50-year-old, 60-year-old story, and basically starts with the very beginning of Scientology. Isn't that interesting? Such a person has no trust to a point of terror. Oh, so that would mean this woman who is terrorized by the idea of going on camera talking about Scientology, she's the bad person, see? Scientology is the force for good and betterment of society, but this poor woman who knows people who've been abused by the Church of Scientology, she doesn't trust. So therefore, see what I mean? She's probably evil, right? And that's the way Scientology would frame it. And that's the way Scientology would make themselves out to be the force for good and everybody else to be the force for evil. I mean, these diabolical schemes are really fascinating. And you kind of got to give them some form of credit for at least that part of it is brilliant. The way that they lure you in with these ideas, you know, because everybody could think of somebody who's chronically distrustful, who is a negative person. So it's one of those things that everybody can relate to. But then what they do is they attach a bunch of bullshit to it, like they make people not recover from their illness, they make medications not work for people surrounding them, and their convalescent periods are longer and all this crap. So they give you one idea that maybe you can relate to, like, yeah, super untrusting people, yeah, they tend to be unpleasant, paranoid types, you know, maybe paranoid, maybe delusional. We can all relate. We've all known somebody like that. And so when Scientology frames it that way, it's very easy to say, yeah, I get you. That makes sense. Totally. That makes sense. Absolutely. And so then they expand on it with a bunch of shit that does not make that much sense. When such a personality goes insane, the world is full of Martians or the FBI, and each person met is really a Martian or an FBI agent, meaning that these people get paranoid and they see enemies everywhere around them. Oh, who does that sound like? Could it be the cult of Scientology? Again, they are projecting their own weakness, their own issues onto whoever would oppose them. Yeah, it's slick. You gotta hand it to them, right? Scientology is so paranoid about suppressive persons that they blast music so they can claim copyright infringements when people protest. They're so afraid of protesters, okay, that they have to lock themselves into a cocoon of fear and paranoia, and they see anybody who would oppose their cult as being evil and that they have to protect themselves. Last week, you could look through that door and see people sitting at the desk. Why are they hiding it? It's a human and a desk. I've seen it before. What are you hiding? What are they hiding? It's not that interesting anyway. And so they make it into this thing of like, non-Scientologists are the paranoid ones. If you don't do Scientology, you'll be paranoid. You'll see Martians and FBI agents everywhere. Another out-of-date paranoid thing from the mind of L. Ron Hubbard. Not a lot of paranoia about Martians these days, L. Ron. But then again, you've been dead for 40 years, so I guess you're not up on the current paranoia flavorings. So, Scientology sees themselves besieged and surrounded by horrible SPs. But the bulk of such people, and here where we get more conspiratorial, Scientology says the bulk of such people exhibit no outward signs of insanity. They appear quite rational. They can be very convincing. Again, you're describing Scientology. Some Scientologists are not outwardly crazed looking. Many are, but not all. They can appear to be rational people. So when they hand you a brochure out on the street and bring you in for a personality test, and they're attractive and they have a nice smile and they're multilingual and they're charming and whatnot, well, then you think, this person can't be that bad. I mean, they seem like nice. It's a nice kid. Like, what's the problem? Because most people are good people. And, wow, it's jumping at Scientology. Most people are good people. And they assume that anybody they meet that seems nice is like most people, that they are a good, decent person. And so when they encounter a Scientologist who's trying to bring them into a cult, there's a part of our minds that can't really believe that that's what's happening, because we think, you know, that seems like a normal, nice person. You know, it's a kid, whatever. It's somebody in their 20s that seems really friendly. And then they're love bombing you. They're complimenting your clothing or your perfume or cologne, or, oh, what color is that, your nails? Oh, yeah. Oh, I got to get that color. As if you could afford it. That would cost you 2 weeks' salary on your Sea Org thing. But, you know, we're not going to talk about that. And so what they're saying is that these people are insane. The SPs are insane people, but they appear normal. And so what are they doing? They're prepping you for paranoia. They're prepping you for looking around the world and seeing SPs potentially behind every tree. That's what they're doing. And then you say, oh, you know, I told my best friend that I came in for some auditing, and she wanted me to watch the Leah Remini, the Aftermath. And she was saying how Scientology was a cult. And they were like, well, you know, it's really heartbreaking, but sometimes it's the people closest to you that are the biggest SPs. And we all had to go through that at one point or another. But if you want to save the planet, and if you want to improve conditions for humanity, you're going to have to look beyond the fact that you've been friends. Get a muffler, dude. you're going to have to go beyond the fact that you've been friends since second grade and that you were bridesmaids at each other's weddings and you were there for the delivery of the children, and you have the closest possible relationship as friends. But the fact that your friend went and did some Scientology auditing and you were skeptical, all of a sudden Scientology's like, well, it happens to all of us. It's really shocking, and they make it kind of like the red pill in the Matrix, like in the Matrix, she was your friend, but you're getting out of the Matrix now. So, like she's just somebody in the Matrix. She's part of the illusion, but you're part of the Homo Novus, the real people that are really waking up. And so that's what happens. Like they say, nobody thinks they're in a cult, right? You don't think you're in a cult, do you? You think it's just a betterment society, don't you? Because she knows I'm an evil person, that I emanate the energy of insanity, and she's going to the place where they produce betterment for humanity. So don't look at me. Don't engage with me. All that's going to do is just put more negativity into your aura, or however they would view it in Scientology. Not sure if they believe in auras. However, the list given above consists of things which such a personality cannot detect in him or herself. Oh, so they're SPs, we could detect it, but they have no ability to detect it. Nice colors, huh? Let's follow these clouds. Yeah, just getting distracted by the cloud colors. Pretty cool. This is so true that if you thought you found yourself in one of the above, you most certainly are not antisocial. Self-criticism is a luxury the antisocial cannot afford. They must be right. Scientologists are really open-minded. They don't have that thing where they must be right. You goobers, you're describing yourself. They must be right because they are in continual danger in their own estimation. Like Scientology, which is dying a slow death. And so they go into paranoia. Okay, Scientology, the shit you wrote has validity, but mainly about you. They must be right because they are in continual danger in their own estimation. If you proved one wrong, you might even send him or her into a severe illness. So therefore, if I prove that woman wrong that just walked by me, I might send her into a severe illness. So therefore, she doesn't look at me. She doesn't respect me as a human. She sees me as a vector for soul disease or something. She sees me as a transmission vector of negativity, and therefore there's no point talking to me. I am beyond the pale. I am the source of all insanity in the universe, according to them. Only the sane, well-balanced person tries to correct his conduct, which might give us some insight on why Scientology cannot correct their conduct, because they're fucking crazy. because they are stuck in the bubble of a cult, and they are stuck to the writings that cannot be really reinterpreted in any major way of a maniac who's been dead for about almost 40 years. They cannot stop themselves from just thinking of everybody that opposes them as a criminal by definition. They do not have the ability to change their ways. They are locked in to whatever L. Ron Hubbard said. And then they go printing out and disseminating these materials where they claim, well, they're not like that, but everybody opposed to them is. Okay, so here's the relief to this situation. If you were to weed out of your past, by proper search and discovery, those antisocial persons you have known, and if you then disconnected, you might experience great relief. Disconnecting from somebody opposed to Scientology brings great relief. Similarly, if society were to recognize the personality type as a sick being, as they now isolate people with smallpox, haven't seen a lot of that occurring recently, both social and economic recoveries could occur. And I bet I know who's going to make that happen. Things are not likely to get much better so long as 20% of the population is permitted to dominate and injure the lives and enterprise of the remaining 80%. Scientology, newsflash, you are not in the 80%. You are not even 1%. You are a mere fraction of 1%. A majority role is the political manner of the day. So should majority sanity express itself in our daily lives without the interference and destruction of the socially unwell. Hi, Daniel. Yeah, Polkum's Rube really makes sense, right? They are brilliant, right? The pity of it is they will not permit themselves to be helped and would not respond to treatment if help were attempted. They are beyond help. We have to let them go. We have to disconnect from them so that we can go up the bridge to total freedom, obviously. Duh. An understanding and ability to recognize such personalities could bring major change in society and our lives. The antisocial personality has a hidden terror of others. All other people are enemies, to be covertly or overtly destroyed. Right, like fair game. One sign of an antisocial personality is that he deals mainly in critical or hostile remarks. Right, especially if they're against Scientology. Invalidation and general suppression. And there we go, talking about suppression again. So basically, if we could find these people, witch hunt, if we could find these people who are ruining it for everybody, then we might have a chance. So, where does this lead now? It leads to, well, we all have to pull together, promote Scientology, because only Scientology has the ability to do this grand task for humanity. Anybody opposed to us is behind the forces of sickness, disability, and insanity, and only Scientology can straighten this whole mess out. But unfortunately, first, we're going to need to have a witch hunt. We're going to need to expose and isolate these suppressive persons. And therefore, anything we do to them is justified because we're saving the world. And the suppressive persons might not even know they're suppressive because they're so damn crazy they don't even know they're crazy. And so it's up to us, the Scientologists, to disconnect from them, to not listen to them. They're just negative and critical. Okay? But if Scientology is negative and critical about suppressives, well, that's not negative and critical, really. And so, therefore, we have this closed loop, this trap that starts to develop, this us versus them situation, where they're setting you up to think of the highest possible cause of your life to be Scientology. So that now you can give them your money, you can give them your time, you can sign away your children to the Sea Org, to indentured servitude for 1 billion years, and that would all be a really good thing. That would be a very positive thing, right? But anybody who questions any of your moves in these directions, they are enemies of mankind. They must be identified and isolated, and that is the only hope for humanity. So this is the package that Scientology starts selling you right from the beginning. In their axiomatic beliefs that form the foundation that they build upon with all the other beliefs. And I think it's important to understand this because, for one thing, even if Scientology goes away, these techniques will not go away. Other people will use them, and other people have used them long before Scientology ever did anything. So, the thing is, we need to understand, and that's what a lot of the purpose of this channel is to understand the structure of this cult, the way that they build the system of mind control, so that we can help others. And, it's pretty hard to help people that are already in, but it's much easier to educate people that are not in and to help them to never fall into that trap. So that's what I'm here for. And I am hoping to do more and more of that. So please give me a like, give me a subscribe if you haven't, and if you feel called to. By the spirit of the great Xenu, the overlord of whatever quadrant of the galaxy he wants to be overlord of, because he's a badass, And so, anyway, thanks, Chichichana. I'm the cool uncle that's done all the drugs. Well, not all the drugs. Definitely over 50% though. Most of the great ones. But anyway, so thanks for whoever listened. That's right, I definitely smoked hash as much as I could get, for sure. So anyway, thanks for listening to the lecture, the sermon. There will be more. I went to my local representative's office today, Adam Schiff. And I started the process with him, and I will put that video up later tonight or tomorrow. But it was kind of funny. There was only one person in the office, and they wouldn't even open the door for me. So, but they got my questions, and now they're instructed to go do their homework on Scientology. So I told them, I'll be back in a few days to catch up with you to get the answers to my question. So I would urge everybody there, out there, to go and go to your local representative, definitely your local congressperson, but also anybody at all levels, all the way down to dog catcher. Anybody who has to get voted into office, ask them, are you in favor of congressional hearings to review the tax-exempt status of Scientology? Okay? It's not about yelling and getting mad or whatever. It's just about getting people on the record, okay? Any politician, you can take your camera, have it running. If you don't have a YouTube channel, somebody's smoking hash right around me. I can smell some nice smelling weed. Not hash, weed. But anyway, yeah, you can, I don't know why I needed to put that in there, but it smelled really good. Anyway, go to a politician. Anybody who depends on elections for their job is fair game for our questioning. And you don't need to know any Scientology people, because if you're in the United States, you have a congressman and they have an office that you can go to, and all you have to do is just ask that question. It's not, are you in favor of revoking their tax exemption? It's not that. It's just asking them, would you be in favor, would you support hearings to review their tax exemption? Okay. Also, what I asked, because Adam Schiff, my congressman, is the congressman of the district where Scientology's headquarters is in LA. Okay, so I also asked, I also want you to find out, has he taken donations from Scientology, and has he attended Scientology events? Okay, because being the congressman of the Scientology District of California, I'm sure they've reached out to him. Now it's time for us to reach out to him. And just because I've done it, if you're in Adam Schiff's district in LA, and you can look at the map and see what that is, just Google it, you too can go to that office and ask the same questions or your own set of questions. All right, everybody, thank you. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, and if you feel called to by the spirit of the great Xenu Overlord. And I will talk to you later. Thanks a lot. Bye.